Welcome to this short tutorial on how to professionally present your textile art by lacing it around some board. To start with, you'll need some acid-free foam and some pins. You'll need to centre your artwork so it sits in the correct place across the frame. If it helps, you can mark your fabric first with a removable pen. Remove any creases by ironing, as you won't be able to do this once it's laced around the board. Once you're happy you have the correct position, flip your work over and place on the table. Starting on one of the long sides, you're going to begin pinning your work into the centre of the foam. Fold the fabric over and then carefully place the pin into the foam. Be careful not to pierce the top or the bottom of the card. You want to aim it in the centre of the foam. Starting in the middle and moving to one of the outside edges, you're going to carefully pull your fabric taut, move along and place the pin inside. Try and line up the grain so that it's at the edge of the fabric. You want to make sure your tension is even. Don't pull so hard that the fabric is distorted. I'm using applique pins here, but in hindsight it would have been much easier to use pins with a ball head that are much shorter, as it has less likelihood of having your thread tangled on it later. When you have finished one side, carefully rotate your work and begin again on the other side. Fold the fabric over, making sure it's nice and taut across the board, but not so tight that the image on the front distorts. As before, you're going to start in the centre and carefully move towards an outside edge, holding and pulling the fabric as you go along so that the tension is nice and even across the work. When you have completed both long sides, flip your work over and check that you are happy with the positioning from the front. Make any adjustments as necessary if you can see that the tension is uneven in places. Now it's time to begin lacing the long sides of the fabric around the board. You'll need a strong thread. I'm using Perle cotton number 8. Thread your needle and knot the end, creating a knot that's big enough not to slip through the fabric. I like to fold the edges of my fabric under so that the needle goes through 2 layers of fabric, making it more secure. If you have overlocked your edges or your fabric is much sturdier, then you won't need to do this. Beginning in the centre, take your needle under one edge and begin lacing the sides together. You want to zigzag your thread up and down. Think about how a corset is laced. Take your time here, pulling your fabric taut as you go along. If you feel the tension is loose, you can always tighten it up a little further as you go along. Notice how I'm pulling the threads here to create a tighter and more even tension across the board. When you run out of thread, make sure you leave enough length to tie a knot that is strong and secure. It's better to leave more to make it easier, as this part can be quite fiddly. When you're knotting the end, make sure you knot it 2 or 3 times and use one hand to hold the tension. You'll repeat this process several times until both of the long edges are bound all the way across the board. When you've repeated the long sides, remove the pins and flip over to check your work. Don't worry if you can see a few wrinkles, they will disappear when you stretch out the short sides. As before, we're going to fold the fabric over the board and begin pinning from the centre out. Be sure to make sure that the corners are nice and neat and the fabric is sitting nice and flat. Begin from the centre and move towards the outside edge, gently pulling the fabric to create an even tension. Once you have pinned both short sides, check your design from the front, and if you are happy, you are ready to begin lacing as you did before. Take extra care when folding the edge down to make sure it's not too bulky and it's all sitting flat. I'm using a couple of pins here to help keep it in place. In exactly the same way as before, knot your thread and begin lacing from the centre, moving to the outside. Keep your tension nice and even and adjust as you go along. This is how the back looks once it's finished. Trim off any excess thread and remove the pins. Your piece is now ready to take to a framer's who can put it in a float frame, or if you have a box frame at home, you can insert it in yourself. Remove any lint before doing this. I hope this tutorial has been useful to you. Let me know in the comments if you decide to give it a try.